Hello and welcome to Amethyst Style Crafting. My name is Jane Allmark and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And we're coming towards the end of our Handmade Christmas series. And we're going to be making today this very sweet little pencil box or pen holder. And it opens either side. So you can open it from either end if you want to. Does mean that if you want to store it flat, you can do. And it fits a pen, and you can fit a really rather nice pen. So I've got the Stampin' Up pens, which I really like, and I think they make beautiful gifts for people at Christmas and for other friends and customers for Stampin' Up who really like these sorts of things. So it fits the pen absolutely beautifully. It will fit a beautiful fountain pen or anything that's really rather nice. It will fit a few small pens if you wanted to fit. In fact, I just got a couple to just sort of show you the sort of size. So these are just sort of odd pens that I've got about, and you can fit probably, well, that's 3 in there, so you could fit 4 other pens if you wanted to. So it's a size that will fit a large, small, medium pen and pencil maybe, and you can make it as fancy as you want. So let's get started with making it. Just put this back in. I like the fact that it closes up neatly, so people who want to keep the box on their desk can do. And as I've always said, you can decorate it and make it as fancy as you want. I'm keeping things fairly simple for the videos, but if you want to go to town with decorating it, you can. So let's get started with it. We need a piece of, I'm going to do this one in greens, because we've done a red one, so I'm going to do a green one. So let me get some of the pieces that I've already done. You need a piece of cardstock which measures 9 inches by 4 1/4 inches. So we'll start with that. And we need our scoreboard. So let's bring the scoreboard in. Make sure that's on there so that you can see it. There we go. Okay, so on the long side, we need to score it at 1/2 inch. So that's a little one. So 1/2 inch, 1 1/2 inches. Then you need to turn it round, and you're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So 1/2 inch. And 1 1/2 inches. Then on the short side, which is the 4 1/4 inches, we're going to score it at 1/4 inch. Now this is a tiny little one, so I tend to hold it from the top so I can bring it down. So 1/4 inch all the way down. Then we need to go at 1 1/4 inches. Two 1/4 inches. And 3 1/4 inches. And that's all the scoring that we need to do. As I always say, don't worry too much if you haven't got those measurements. You can go back, you can freeze frame, you can do all of that sort of thing, but I always put it down in the description box as well. Now we are going to burnish the scores, and the little 1/4 inch one is a very tiny one, so you need to just be a little bit careful of that one, and then give it a nice burnish. And then we can go around and do the other ones. So we're just going to fold and burnish on all the score lines. And you see that I rotate it one side to the other. I just find it easier for burnishing to do that. It's entirely up to you how you do it. Then we're going to do this one on either side. Take the other one. And we're using the classic Christmas designer series paper, which we've used throughout for all of the projects. Okay, so what we need to do is, this is going to be our top and this is the pieces that are going to fold. So we need to take this, these two little pieces are going to come off completely. So we'll take that little end off and just wedge it in on that side, and then on the other side do the same thing. So that's that tiny weeny little strip, because that's what's going to hold it together. So take that little piece off like that. Okay. Okay, now we need to cut down each one of these. So on both ends, we're going to cut it straight down. And then rotate it and do exactly the same on the other side. Now, I always do it this way round, because when you're making things, once you've cut something out, you can't stick it back on again. And with all sorts of boxes, I find that the easiest way is to work out what you're doing as you go along. Okay, so if this comes across and it's going to seal in like that, that's going to be our back seam there. We want to have, this is going to be folded in. So we're going to cut this piece off here, and that will be folded into the box itself. These are going to be our two side pieces. So these we need to cut off in half. To about there. And the other side to about there. And then that's our back piece. So when you open it up, you can see exactly where you are going to cut everything. Okay, so that's the one side. So let's do exactly the same thing with the other side. So if we look down on this one, and this, as I say, is the easiest way I find of doing it, so you don't cut things off by mistake. So we're just going to take this piece off here, which is the top, because that's going to fold in. That just gives a little bit more stability. Either side of those, we're going to cut these in half, or just below half. Like that, and then that's our top and our bottom. Now we need to do a little bit of wedging. Okay, so we need to not take too much off, but take enough so that it goes in. When it folds into the box, it's not going to catch on anything. So I always say a sliver rather than a wedge. When you're taking a wedge, you're taking quite a big piece, whereas we're taking a little sliver on this. So a sliver on that side and a sliver on that side. Pull those pieces off. And then this little top piece here, you need to take a very tiny sliver. If you do a too big sliver, what happens is you will find that it it closes, but it closes and flips open because you haven't got enough of a wedge coming through. I just need to take that off at the top there. That's better. And so we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So this is the little top piece here that's going to fold in. So you want just a very fine sliver on that. Like that one. These ones we're just going to cut in, and again a fairly fine sliver. You can always cut more off, but you can't put it back on again, so I always try and do a fairly fine sliver rather than a great big wedge. And a little one on here. Like that. Okay, so those are all our pieces done. Now we need to look at decorating the top and the bottom of this. So we are going to, if we turn it round this way, and we've got our little sliver piece at the top, we're going to put the designer series paper on first this time. So I've cut the pieces out, and they are, I've done them in 1/8 of an inch. So this is 6 inches in length. So I've cut it at 5 7/8. This is an inch, so I've cut it at 7/8 of an inch. So we need 4 of those, and we're just going to take some wet glue, purely because wet glue is my favourite, and we're just going to glue these little panels on. Now, as I've said before, you can do this when it is put together, and I always tend to do it when it's put together if I'm doing directional paper, because it's quite difficult sometimes to work out when a box is flat, and it really makes no difference whether you put your paper on before or after. I know if you've been following me for all of the series, you will know that I have done it both ways. So sometimes I've done it so that it is, once we put the box together, sometimes I've done it like this when it's flat. It really doesn't matter. But whichever you find the easiest. Say, with most crafting, there's no right or wrong way, really. There's what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And as long as it comes out how you want it at the end, then there's ways that are easier to do things, but there's not necessarily a right or a wrong way. So we need to put this piece in on here. Just up like that. Okay, so those are those 4 pieces. And then we should have, says me, I've got 1. I did cut 2. What have I done with the other little piece? Here it is. Okay, so then we need 2, which are 7/8 of an inch square, and that's going to go on the top of each one of those. So the pieces that have got your little bits that tuck in, that's where we're going to put these on. So we can do all of these at the same time. So we'll put this on, and as I say, it is, I've done it 1/8 of an inch smaller. You could do it 1/4 of an inch smaller if you wanted to. I think it looks nice just with a tiny border, but again, it's entirely down to you if you want to have a slightly bigger border. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so that's all stuck down now. Now we can start putting it together. Now these two pieces we are going to glue in. It makes the top just a little bit neater, and it also just gives a little bit of extra stability in the part that you are opening and closing all the time, you know, the bit that you put in. Any little extra stability is quite good. So that piece is just going to go in like this on here, and we can just glue that down. Okay, so we now need to just put some glue along this little edge here. So if we just take our, I use wet glue, as you know, because I find that A, it's exceptionally strong, B, it does allow a certain amount of wiggle room, and if you're trying to do tiny little pieces like this, a lot of the tear and tape and things like that are quite big. Even the Seal and the Seal Plus, they are not going to make it as easy to be able to do this. Okay, so we can fold it straight down on here because we know that it's exactly the right size, and then because it's the wet glue, what I do is I just take my bone folder and just run it along. It helps the glue just adhere just a little bit. Okay, so that is then our little box, and then we can put our little sides in, and this is where we can check and see that it is going to close exactly as we want it, fairly tight. And yes, that's how I want it. I don't want it to be a loose fit. I want it to be a nice tight fit. So close up that end, and again, because we've just done a tiny wedge, it will fit in nice and snugly. Now, which direction you have your closure is entirely down to you. I quite like to have it there so you can open it straight onto yourself, but it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. So then we just need to do some very simple decoration. And what I've done is I've taken a little sentiment and taken it with the classic label punch, just punched it out. Any of the small sentiments will work. This is from the postage stamp set, the Christmas one, Festive Post. And I'm going to put this on with some dimensionals. So let's have a look and see what I've done with my dimensionals. Let me get my pot out. So I always keep mine, as you know, I keep everything in one of our large cases. Now, I have read that we are going to be not having our wide cases because we don't do our wooden stamp sets anymore. We don't really need wide cases, and so if you want the wide cases, I find they're great for storage. Might be worth putting an order in for those, because as I say, I know that they are going to be, they might have already run out, but they're not going to be using those anymore. I think I probably should have done a smaller one, but I haven't got my smaller ones to hand. So the easiest thing is to use your end pieces. So this is a nice little end piece here. So I'm just going to take, always use your pieces at the side, so this will work quite nicely. And I can put that straight down in the middle, which will work perfectly. Take that off, and then we've got a very simple little Merry Christmas in on there. And I'm just going to put it down that side like that. And then I'm using, as I know and I've said to you a lot, I'm using this mesh ribbon purely because it's very simple and easy to tie, and it's ever so pretty. So I'm going to take a piece which is 12 inches and just cut it through. And then, as I said before, to make it go further, and because you don't need all of it on there, I cut it in half, so it means that I can get twice as much out of it. And again, because it's mesh, you don't have to be overly accurate with cutting it in half, but I am using this a lot because I like the fact that it just gives that little pop of colour without it being too thick or busy. I'm not the best at tying bows, whereas I find with this it's incredibly forgiving. So and you can get 2 out of each one, so literally all I'm going to do is to wrap it round underneath, and hopefully this is going to be big enough to tie a bow with. Probably should have left myself a little bit more space, but with a bit of luck we should be all right. It is a fairly easy one to do as well. There we go. So it's a little bit smaller than the other one, but I could have probably done about 14 inches or whatever. But it just gives a very pretty little bow on there. Let's get the red one in. So this one I just made it a little bit longer. But you can see, very pretty little pencil box or pen box to put something really nice inside to give us a little gift at Christmas. So thank you so much as always for watching, and thank you so much for everybody that has left such lovely comments. It has spurred me on. And do come back again tomorrow for the next one in the series. As I say, we're almost at the end, but a big thank you, as I say, to everybody. So look forward to seeing you again. As always, stay safe and stay well and be kind. Bye bye.